Hello there, and welcome to the Kirk Minahan wrap-up show for January 20th, 2021. Today was the Gary Butts show, the new superstar of the Kirk Minahan universe. Kind of, some people might call him the new Rich Mandarin, the real-life Rich Mandarin, which we'll get to in a little bit. But so normally, Tim from Canton joins me on Wednesdays. He is unable to make it today. He had something at work where it kept him late. So I am joined by the biggest cunt there is, Red from Maine.
That's me. Thank you. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry to tell you. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing great. How you been?
Good, man. I'm doing good. Doing good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime. We love having cunts on the show.
So, I think I'm probably the most popular one. I think people actually like me. I really do. But
I like you, Red. Let's keep this between us. But I'm a Red guy.
All right.
I'm a Red guy. So the first thing I want to get to is obviously just what the show was named after today. You know, Gary Butts, the radio host down in South Carolina. It sounds like it was a small radio station.
Very small.
Kirk goes up, knocks on the door. Gary is the one who answers, which in and of itself is hilarious. Imagine walking into the WEEI building in 2018 and Kirk Minahan is responsible for any mail or packaging.
He's the only one in the building answering the door. He's going to be on the air in a minute. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, WEI probably would have been better off doing that. To tell you the truth, just have the only employee that's on payroll is Kirk. But Gary, I don't know if you heard this, but when he first opened the door, it sounded like Gary knew who they were. I don't know if that was just Southern hospitality.
Yeah, like he seemed like he was trying to be a really nice guy.
Yes.
He seemed to have no idea, when Kirk mentioned Google, Google his name and talked about Barstool, didn't sound like he had any idea. I mean, he didn't even know what hit the post was, Justin. So I worry that he's, in the wrong business, but he's been doing it a while.
I mean, he's been doing it for what, like 50 years or something like that?
Right. Right. His bio is pretty good. Like it's good if you go on that website, you can check it out and see. And I know I tweeted at him today, and I know some other fans did. Yeah, but I don't know. I didn't see him interact with anybody. It had to be weird for him to wake up this morning and to have that Twitter activity if he was even checking in. I don't know if it's Twitter on his phone, but that had to be a weird thing for him to wake up to this morning.
Yeah, it sounded like I understand when Kirk, like what Kirk was trying to do, like let me come on, hit the post, which anyone who knew who Kirk was and knew how popular of a platform he has would obviously say yes. But this guy has no idea who he is. So I understand him being like, I can't just put you on the radio.
Right.
And, we have 30 seconds notice. You don't know if he's going to go on there and start spouting, political things or who you're letting on the radio. But I think it was funny that they even got a chance to talk with the guy.
It could have been so good if he was willing to play along, and not necessarily if he let Kirk on the air, it would have been great. But if he had more time and Kirk had more time with him to get him to open up a little bit, I think it would have been awesome. Like he's got a great voice. It's all set up there for you. The scaffolding is there, right? Like he's Gary Butts, man. He can make this happen. Like it would be hilarious. It was just a missed opportunity if he wasn't willing to play along, but you heard things like apparently he might have a hairpiece. Kirk mentioned something about it, maybe a carcass on top of his head. So there's either a hairpiece or at least he's got maybe my haircut. I don't know. And then Steve did him dirty with the FUPA comment right there. Yeah. That hurts, man.
Steve fat shaming.
He just came right at him as he's getting in the car with the Steve FUPA comment. But it could have been really, really good. I understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it was funny, and I liked it at one point. Kirk goes, so I thought the title of this episode was going to be Bag or Carcass, but it has to be Gary Butts. It just has to be. That just sounds in and of itself like a Bart Simpson like name he would tell Mo to yell out at his at his bar. It's just Gary Butts. I could see him doing a fine show with Jerry or someone like that. Another radio veteran in there.
He's got the pipes, man. He can do it, and he can do traffic and weather, and he can intro the song. He can do it all.
I it's funny. It's just funny. Like that's what radio is now. Like he's still doing traffic and weather. Like
Right.
everyone has an app on your phone, or I don't know. Maybe they're not huge on smartphones down there. Maybe they do.
Sounds like they're up in the mountains, man. I don't think they might not even get much service out there. I don't know, but they still get that radio station.
Yeah. So I just found that interesting. Just the whole Gary Butts situation. And if we know anything, this is not the last time we've heard from Gary Butts. I mean,
no, I hope not. I hope he actually engages on Twitter. That would be the next step. That would be really good.
like just think of just people like Rich Mander. We'll get to him in a second.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Stacy from Madawaska became a part. Was his name the hardware store guy who was around for a little bit? I forget his name. You know, this is Commander Tom. These people are just going to be a part of the world for forever, and it's it's funny to see just the like you said, waking up and just seeing 200 notifications from people going, "Let Kirk Minahan on the air." It's
right.
Like, Jesus Christ, what is this cult leader who demanded airtime at
what a world
the radio station?
Right. Yeah, that's nuts, man. So what did you think overall from the show? Like I heard it early this morning. It dropped pretty early this morning, so I listened to it. And then you start seeing people wake up and they listen. You see the chatter on Twitter and on Reddit. Do you pay attention to that stuff at all? Like, what were you looking at? What the fans were talking about today too?
Well, as you know, I follow many Power Rangers accounts, Mom
true.
accounts, and Winnipeg Jets accounts on my Twitter. So most of the feed is kind of tied up in the Power Rangers news of the week. But I might have a burner account where I follow Minifans and just I don't really interact. But
is that Carabas style? You going with
no, I no. It's just I mean, it's just to see because I do say evolved, and I do think I do like what Kirk and Steve are trying to do on the Wednesday show. Because you have today was not a normal show. I mean, say what you want. They filmed it or they recorded it on the road. They were going back in Carcass. They were out and about. Last Wednesday's show was the top 20 countdown. That was I like that show. I can understand if some people weren't too hot on that show, but I like what they're doing with the Wednesday show. You know, Mike Monday, Carabas Friday, Wednesday. We're going to experiment and do something a little different. And I'm never going to shit on them for trying something different. I mean, half the time it strikes gold, in all the time it strikes gold when it comes to Kirk. But
right. And to dovetail off of that, Justin, like I understand what they were trying to do with the show. When I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, this isn't going to be good because you're hearing the quality of it, like the sound quality while they're in the car."
The only podcast to ever be recorded on a phone, by the way.
Right? Yeah, that's a wild statement.
No other podcast has ever been recorded on a phone.
He's the best in the business. So when I understand what they're trying to do, and the premise of it is really cool. Like it's two guys on a road trip in the car, just bullshitting, playing a fun game of bag or carcass. So you're doing like this silly road game, listening to the radio, busting balls. Like it's a really good setup. The issue that I have with it is that it's just not quite as good as it could be. Because Steve's put in a bad spot where he's in that second chair, right? So he's forced to have to do more when I think Steve's biggest strength is being the producer and being in the third chair and occasionally chiming in. But with that said, subsequently what you get is what we got today, which is, Kirk, I think, making it happen. Steve struggling at times to further the joke, but everything that's factored in is they're producing a whole nother podcast. So the Wednesday show, when they're working on two shows, is not going to be up to the quality that the Minifans see, as you can see on Twitter and Reddit. What people are saying, it's not going to be as good as the Monday and Friday show, but it's still the Kirk Minahan show. It's pizza.
I'd say the Wednesday show,
it's pizza, Justin, but it's bad pizza maybe for some, but it's still pizza.
Yeah, so
good.
So that's what I was going to say. I wouldn't necessarily. It's not up to the quality. I'd say it's definitely more polarizing.
I know, and you're in a tough spot too. So I'm saying these things, and
then the Monday and Friday show. Like I could understand why people weren't too hot on today's show. I did like it how they did not talk They talked very little politics. They mentioned like Melania is not giving a tour to Jill Biden,
Right.
but it's nice to get like a little escape from
That's also true, because I don't know what it was like for you today, but it was nonstop at work, people talking about it. You can't escape that. So
Mhm.
at least this was an escape from that. So that's a positive for it.
I actually went to Fernley's today, and I take out my card to go pay, and she goes, "It's a different America now. It's on me." So it was very nice. It was very nice of the waitress to give me that free meal, knowing that America's on its way to healing.
Racism abolished, and you got some fun.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
Good for you.
The kitchen crew came out holding hands, and they were all singing. They're singing "We Are the World." It was beautiful. But so another part of today's show, obviously, was the Bagger carcass, which there were some funny moments in that. I wouldn't necessarily say. I think I like it how it was spaced out throughout the entire thing, where they'd be talking and then Kirk would just randomly go bag, or they'd be like, "Oh fuck, a squirrel's on the side of the road," and Steve would just turn into, I don't know what the fuck he turned into, but he's like just drive up on the curb and hit it. And
Right.
all I could picture is imagine driving behind a car and then them seeing a squirrel on a sidewalk and they swerve onto the sidewalk, kill the squirrel, and then swerve back in.
Steve is entirely too excited about running over animals. Kirk was like, I can't do that, Steve. There's no way. Like, I can't just come over here and take out these squirrels. Like, it's not going to happen.
So I tried looking up this great squirrel war that Steve mentioned on today's show in Maine. Apparently there was a big battle. Was that a thing? I know you're from Maine.
No idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, I tried looking it up, and it was like just giving me statistics on like when squirrel hunting season is. So,
I mean, I've lived in just about everywhere in Maine. I don't know what Steve's talking about, but Steve has an ability to bend the truth, we'll say. So
yeah,
maybe he was doing that there.
It might have been like a forgotten war, someone that like it could have been like Korea, like someone just doesn't get the credit that it deserves. But I liked it. I liked it how Kirk won at the end. I mean, Kirk's probably going to stay undefeated at that game. I would like it if they switched seats, though, for one of these Bagger Carcass games. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but I would like to see Steve driving and perhaps Kirk in the passenger seat, because who knows? Maybe Steve would have driven up on that sidewalk to kill that squirrel, or sped up a little bit more to kill that deer, and just completely wreck the rental.
I feel like you're in a much better, we'll say, advantageous position to be the passenger in that game, right? Because you have an ability to be able to look around and see everything more so than the driver who doesn't want to get distracted. But as a driver, if you can make your own carcass, there's the plus side there too.
Yes. So I like that, I did like it how Kirk said, we'll probably be back here in a year playing Bagger Carcass and have a live show in South Carolina, which I would be super pumped for. I think it's such a waste of a opportunity with COVID, because they would have been doing live shows in South Carolina and upstate New York and all these fun things while they were down here. COVID just killed all that.
Oh yeah, you could definitely do some drive-in shows for sure. Like that definitely could have happened. It's too bad that they weren't able to do that, because just being at Saco, like that was an awesome experience.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So speaking of things being killed, there was another, I don't want to say murder, but let's just say they're R.I.P. Rich Mandarin from today's show. He had a good run. He had a good run there. Kirk said, give up that account.
I feel bad. I love the underscore. I love him. I love Marvel. I can see Kirk not being happy with him in his tweets. My sources are telling me that this went down in the private chat, and underscore may or may not be blocked by Kirk and the Kirk Minahan show. So
I could see that.
There's levels to how this progressed. I feel bad. He's a nice guy, but when you got to go, you got to go. So I don't know who gets that account. Do you get that account, Justin, or how does that work?
Oh no,
Hostile takeover.
I have no idea.
But you want to storm the Capitol on Justin, or what are you going to do?
I might.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what Kirk is saying. Someone who was such a prominent piece of Kirk Minahan history. And you kind of, and you know, when he started out, he was talking about selling houses, having your house smell like cookies when you're selling it, and all this other, you know, real estate jingo. But I can see where Kirk's like, okay, why is Rich Mandarin? He literally, I think he has a pinned tweet where there's a Marvel podcast, and it says like, "This is my favorite podcast," and it's like, you're Rich Mandarin. You're not.
That might have been the tipping point. I think that tweet in particular might have been the straw right there. I feel like maybe he's a big Marvel fan and maybe not so big of a KMS fan. My question to you, Justin, is: does Dave Cullinane and Mike Geary, do they get any ownership of this account too? Because they were in the room with Kirk. So I feel like the Rich Mandarin character is also theirs. Now, is there something we can give Mike Geary?
I feel like it's kind of like Kirk is a majority owner of that account. He decides what happens, but I believe that Dave Cullinane and Blind Mike probably have some little bit of sway in what goes on with that. But I'm sure Mike will just go along with Kirk. And
I'm trying to give Mike something is what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
Give one to the guy. He's a nice guy. We got to give that to him. But
yeah, so I don't know. I like Rich. I have no idea. I like how Kirk was like, "We will find you. We will find out who your family is. You will
ruin your life."
Yes. So I like that whole thing. But I do understand where Kirk's coming from. It's like, listen, you're tweeting out that this Marvel podcast or whatever. Like, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I listen to a couple other podcasts. But could you imagine like what would happen to me if I tweeted out that, you know, I'm just thinking of a podcast. Yeah. If I thought the Bill Burr podcast, if I just tweeted out like, this is the best podcast ever, you know, it'd be murder because, you know, I'm part of the show. And I think Kirk considers some of these accounts like Rich Mandarin a part of the show, especially when they kind of grow up. And it's not like if it was Rich from Attleboro or something like that.
Right.
Then it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? This is this guy's personal account. My thing to him is give up the Rich Mandarin account, make another account, and just go free with it.
Do you advise him to use the actual account and just change the handle like the real Matt J, or leave it completely? Okay.
I think you should. I think you should give up the Rich Mandarin handle to whoever will put it to good use.
So don't do what Matt J does, is what you're saying.
Who?
Matt? Who? Yeah, exactly. So I think that would be the wise move. I think the problem, though, we run into here, Justin, is I get called a Kimp all the time, which is fine. I like that.
Kirk Simp, correct?
Yeah, Kirk Simp. I love the show. The problem that we run into is these guys who fall in love or fall out of love and then fall out of love with the show is they stop tweeting about the show. And then you get a conflict there. And then you got to ask yourself, why is this guy not tweeting about the show? Does Kirk and Steve, do they need to do more Marvel stuff? I have no idea. How do you get these fans back engaged with the show to tweet about it? I don't know what to do. But
big Marvel news looks like Daredevil will be making an appearance in Spider-Man 3. So I think Kirk and Steve are going to touch on that with Carabas on Friday. I don't want to get too deep into it.
If they could at least do that, at least we're talking Marvel. So at least underscore probably is hopefully a big fan of this show.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's his favorite podcast.
Right.
So we were going to do this day in KMS history with Tim, but I think we're going to push that off to Friday.
Yep.
Another thing I wanted to hit on was this whole Mets GM thing, and I was going to go around the room. And I know it's considered like a younger thing to kind of send dick pics. I've never been personally a fan of them. There's nothing good can come out of it.
You've never been a fan of sending them or getting them?
Both, believe it or not.
All right, okay.
Have
you gotten any have you gotten any Minifans sending you dick pics? I know Steve has in the past. Does that happen to your DMs too?
I can't think of, like, people have sent me like what's that meme with that jacked guy and his dick's just hanging out? He's like sitting on the bed. like this.
Steve from Providence loves that one. That's his favorite.
I've been sent him a couple times, but I don't think anyone's ever sent me their dick, which is I'm very thankful for and grateful.
Right.
But I will say just the whole thing when they were talking today, and they're like, "What?" I think Kirk said like, "If you're all for it," but this guy sent 62 messages back to back to back to back to this girl, just throwing in dick pics in there. It's like, dude, you're asking for trouble. You think she's going to reply on message 48 and be like, OMG, I'm so sorry. I was doing my laundry.
62, just hoping, okay, I'm going to send her the hammer and we're going to see what happens. And it's an odd move, to say the least.
And it took place over weeks too, the 62 messages. Like I could kind of understand minus the dick pics if he got drunk one night and then sent 62 messages to a girl about how pretty she is. It's like, okay, I would understand that a little bit more, but this is like targeted harassment, and it
definitely is. Now, I will never turn down an opportunity to get on Steve. He triggers me. This was a layup opportunity for Steve to talk about the fact that this guy was a Bowdoin grad. Low hanging fruit for Steve to at least bring that to the conversation. And he never did. I think he was a graduate in 2002 or 2003. Not the same graduation year as Steve, but this guy has Bowdoin connections that needs to be talked about. So either Steve didn't know or he knew and he didn't want to besmirch Bowdoin. He's not happy with Steve anyway. So that's going to be my criticism for Steve. When Kirk hands you that, you got to build on that joke. And you got to talk about the fact that this guy is a polar bear sending his dick out to people, and I want to know how many polar bears are out there just sending the dick pic out to everybody else.
Actually just looked it up, and do you know who actually was the first people to break the story? It was the Bowdoin police, actually. There was an anonymous call from somewhere in Boston around when the Bruins lost the Stanley Cup to the Blues. Apparently this guy was crying, and he was just going off, and he was like, we got to do something about this guy. There's
nobody I love more than BCP, by the way. Bowdoin College Police, they're the best. So as much as I hate Steve and Bowdoin, I love BCP. I'll say that right now. I'm on the record.
Yeah, so I just wanted to hit on that really quick. I just find it interesting when they get into kind of that, because I know some people were saying, oh, this is cancel culture. Well, it's like some things you should get fired for. I mean, if you can't be a professional sports team and your GM is a known, a harasser of women and just sending his dick out there over and over and over again. So,
so we got some of that. Like Kirk gave us that again, just escape from all the other serious stuff going on in the world. Like he gave us that too. Like that's a funny story to kick back and forth. If you imagine them, two guys on a road trip, that's exactly what you're going to be talking about with your buddy as you're going down the road, just talking about the absurdity of this guy sending a dick pic after 62 messages.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I think they were throughout the 62 messages.
That's even crazier.
So
it's nuts.
So I don't know. You got anything else? Thoughts on today's show?
No, like I said, like I appreciate them taking the swing. I understand why, the chatter online, people are not happy with the show. But again, when you put that out there and they're working on two podcasts at the same time, and Steve's put in the position where he's not going to be successful, and Kirk's out there making it happen. I'll use the analogy. Kirk is Larry Bird. He's doing what he can. He's passing the ball down in the post to what you would think would be an open player in Kevin McHale, but it's not Kevin McHale. It's Bill Walton, and Bill Walton's going to turn that ball over every time. So Steve's put in a bad spot. Kirk's put in a bad spot, and they're making the most of it. So at the end of the day, as a Kemp, I'm going to take that show. A wise man told me, Justin, whether it's sex, pizza, or the Kirk Minahan show, even if it's bad, it's still good. Still good. A wise man told me that. So
that's right. I mean, I like today's show. I mean, I'm a Kemp, if you want to say as well.
Kempin', baby.
Aren't many shows that I go, not a big fan of this one. But no, I'd like today's show. I found it interesting. I'll probably give it another listen later on tonight.
Right.
And it's
same here.
It's just I liked it, and I like how they're kind of going with this Wednesday. They're going to try new things because who knows, it might be a hit. I mean, it seems like some people were DMing me asking me if Kirk was going to do another top 20 thing because they loved it so much. One guy DM'd me, he's like I think I listened to it 5 times. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like,
if you're in the 80s music, this is the thing that we didn't talk about on the rundown, by the way, which KMS rundown is back, and I love doing it with Ziggy and Sheldon. But if you're into 80s music, it's perfect because you can keep coming back to a very good playlist. I listen to Spotify all the time with the Billboard Top 100 for the 80s. Instead of doing that, you can just pop on the Kirk Minahan show, and then you get some really good music with some funny jokes in between. So
yeah,
absolutely.
No, it's great. So I like the different Wednesday approach they're taking.
Absolutely.
The last thing I wanted to bring up was actually about Friday's wrap up. I will be having a guest. It will be, I believe, if he's still available. I know I penciled him in last week. He said he could make it. Is Jared Carabas. So hopefully Jared Carabas is going to make the wrap up show on Friday. And I also have a new segment that I want to debut. I want it to be a weekly kind of Friday thing where I go over. So I don't know if you listen to the Dave Portnoy show or the Token podcast. There was a lot of Kirk, not influence, but Kirk was mentioned. Kirk Blind Mike was mentioned. Carabas was mentioned.
Eddie is a Minifan by far because he keeps bringing up Kirk in those shows. Yesterday's Portnoy podcast is an all-timer. It's going to give Carabas and Kirk plenty to react to on Friday, I'm sure. It's awesome. And Kirk comes up a lot.
There was one thing said about K Marco during that podcast, which I'll tease right now, but apparently he has not shown up to the office in 3 months.
3 months.
So I want to, just kind of fill people who might not be totally into the Barstool world if they want to listen to the wrap up and they can hear a little bit of what's going on.
It's very good
when it comes to that kind of stuff.
And I see here, Justin, I checked as well. Gary Butts has blocked many of the Minifans
really
who followed him. So I don't think Gary's in on the joke, which is too bad. So I take back what I said about the FUPA. Take that, Gary.
Okay. Yeah, that sucks. Damn it. That's not fun. It's fun when they play along, like Stacy or someone like that. It's always the worst when you get someone like that who just doesn't understand and just.
So RIP Gary Butts. Enjoy the FUPA, buddy.
Yeah. So anything else you want to say before?
No, that's it. KMS Rundown. We're back.
That's right.
Appreciate the love on the YouTube channel. Love Ziggy. Love Sheldon. I'm a Kemp, man. I'm going to keep Kemping. Big Kemping. Thank you, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you for everyone who's listening. New show on Friday. I will talk to you later. Thank you, Red. I will talk to you guys later.